welcome to a new video, and as you would have seen by the title, it is a tag video. It's finally fall book tag, and I am so excited to be filming this video. You all know how much I love fall. I think it's pretty obvious. And I was tagged by the lovely Taylor from Tales and Treats with Tay. I will leave her channel linked below. She is the sweetest. Like any other tag here on BookTube, your answers are basically books, and this tag has very autumnal questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first question. And that is, in fall, the air is crisp and clear, a book with a vivid setting. As usual, I cannot answer with just one book, so I have 4 to give you for this answer. When I heard vivid setting, my mind immediately went to this fantasy book, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. And I've described this book before in terms of the writing and the setting as basically how the cover is, in terms of how you feel when you read the book. The cover is absolutely magical and gorgeous and colorful, and just has this whimsy to it, and it just is a perfect example of the setting of the book. It's very, very magical, like a whimsical fairy tale that you just get swept away in, and I just loved the setting in this book. It's definitely one of its strong points. There are like different realms, and you can travel by, I believe it was clouds, and it's just so magical. And honestly, the descriptions just swept me off my feet. So would definitely say this one has a very vivid setting. I also thought of Apple Cider Slaying just for the fact that it is set in West Virginia during the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the American Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the setting around the farm and the cider shop and the beautiful changes that come with the season changes. It was so vivid, and I would definitely say this one has a very vivid atmosphere to it. So I had to mention this book as well. Another fantasy that I haven't read for a while, but I do remember its setting, and that is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. This one is set in medieval Romania, and I know how beautiful Romania is, especially in the mountains. It is absolutely gorgeous, and this one is a fantasy, so it has this other realm to it where there are different creatures that gather for balls, and it is truly magical. It's another one of those books where the cover just has such a whimsy and such a magical fairy kind of vibe to it. I don't even know how to describe this cover, but just that art style, I really like that. And the book is truly extremely vivid. Loved the setting in this one. It's also set in the winter, so very atmospheric, great descriptions of the setting. And the final book for question 1 is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I could not answer this question without mentioning this book. This book is set during fall and winter, and I don't remember if it's set during any other seasons, but the fall and winter seasons in the New England setting of this book were just incredibly written, incredibly described. I found the writing to be mesmerizing and very vivid. Next up is question 2, which is Nature is Beautiful but Also Dying, a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. And for this one, I also have 4 books. 2 of them are classics. The first one is Wuthering Heights, of course. Wuthering Heights, in my opinion, is very beautifully written, very atmospheric, just gorgeous writing. But it is very heavy, a very heavy book, and yeah, it's not a light, breezy read for sure. I would also say Dombey and Son by Dickens is definitely one of those books that is beautifully written. I love how he wrote in this book, but deals with very heavy topics around grief and death of family members and things like that. And it was a very impactful read in that regard. There's also Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This one is about Shakespeare's son who died at a very young age. It is not a spoiler for this book. This book is basically the grief journey of Shakespeare's wife, and very powerful story as well, but beautifully written. And finally, Whose Waves These Are by Amanda Dykes. She is one of my favorite Christian fiction authors, and she wrote this, I believe this is her debut, and it was beautifully written. Very beautiful for a debut novel. I think she is a wordsmith, and in this one there is, of course, themes of grief and all of that. So that is my 4th and final answer for question 2. Question 3 is Fall is Back to School Season, a nonfiction book that taught you something new. I am cheating a little with this first one here because I am almost finished it. I am not done quite yet, but that is Victoria and Albert, A Family Life at Osborne House by Her Royal Highness the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, and with Benita Stoney. And like I said, I'm not done this quite yet. I am reading this for Victober, but I already suspect this is going to get either 4 or 5 stars from me. I'm loving it, and it has taught me a lot about Victoria and Albert as a married couple and parents, and I'm just very interested in the subject matter. So definitely would consider this one educational, but I am loving it. I did have a hard time coming up with answers for this question because I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I also realized that The Hiding Place would work for this question. This is a memoir by Corrie ten Boom about her time during World War II, and I knew a little bit about her story, just very, very little, but this book was definitely an eye-opening read and taught me a lot that I didn't know about her story, her family, and Holland during World War II and all of that. So I would definitely say this one did teach me things that I had not known before. Question 4 is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. A fictional family / household / friend group that you'd like to be a part of. Any kind of question that has to do with like what family would you like to be a part of, or what household would you like to be a part of, or what fictional place would you like to live, or what fictional family would you like to be a part of, I always have the same answer and it will never change, and I'm sorry if it's annoying if you've seen previous tags that I've done. I know that I answer with this book all the time and I will continue to do so. That is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, my favorite book of all time. I want to be part of the March family. I wish they were real. I wish that in a perfect world, I could be a part of the sisterhood, so to speak. No family is perfect. The March family is not perfect, but if I had to choose a fictional family or household to be a part of, it would be their household. I also wanted to mention A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus, and all I will say is Mrs. Mueller. If you've read this book, you know who I am talking about, but I don't want to spoil anything, but I will just say Mrs. Mueller. Number 5 is the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground, a pile of fall-colored spines. I had a little bit too much fun pulling books off my shelves. I probably could have just grabbed 3 or 4, but is that not satisfying? That is just look at those colors. Oh my gosh. I would do this with like every color palette or vibe, or every season I would just grab another pile. It's really, really satisfying. I feel like it makes sense with these books, the majority of them at least. Like the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, Things in Jars, those are like spookier. I mean, Sherlock Holmes isn't, but Dracula, Things in Jars, Premonition at Wither's Farm. We have some Agatha Christie, A Royal Pain. Like these are all mysteries, like spookier books. The Lost Heiress is just historical fiction. Muse of Nightmares is a fantasy. Heart of the Sun Warrior is a fantasy. And The Thursday Murder Club is a mystery. So besides these two, it also fits the genres, which is very, very fun. My arm hurts, so I'm going to put these down, but very satisfying. Question 6 is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside, a book where somebody is telling a story. First up, I would say The Magpie Murders, and I forget the author's name, but I really enjoyed this mystery, and it is kind of a mystery within a mystery. So it's a story within a story. We have a 1950s timeline within the modern day, but the 1950s timeline, so to speak, is an actual like manuscript. So I would definitely say this one is a good one where we are being told a story within a story. I would also say The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield, and in this one we have a woman named Margaret who is being told a story by another woman named Vida, and it is a very creepy gothic story, and it's a very, very fun one as well. And then we have one of my favorite fantasy books, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and in this one our main character is telling us the story of his life, basically. We have Kvothe, and he's in a tavern, and he just tells us his story. Then we have question 7. The nights are getting darker, a dark, creepy read. For this one, I thought of a short story by Edgar Allan Poe that I read many years ago, and I reread it a few years later, and it's very, very creepy. And even though I don't like horror, and I am not into that, I do really enjoy some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, and this one in particular is The Fall of the House of Usher. It is very creepy, but so well written and just so intense and really, really captivating. So I would definitely say this one is a creepy one. It is very short, but a very good story. And I would also say The Curse of Misty Wayfair by Jamie Jo Wright. Basically anything by Jamie Jo Wright has a little bit of that spook factor, but this one and maybe one or two of her other ones really, really got to me. So this one I very much enjoyed. It is quite spooky, and I love how it's one of those books where you're like, how can it not be a ghost or something supernatural, but you know it's not, and it's very satisfying to read. I have to mention Dracula by Bram Stoker. I just have to. This goes without saying. A spooky read, a very fun one, very different than I was expecting when I first read it. So it's spooky, it's creepy, but it's a very good story. And then finally, we have Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. This one is one of those books where it just like, it gets under your skin. It's more eerie and unsettling than straight out scary or anything like that. Just the kind of gothic story that I enjoy. Very, very good one. Question 8 is The Days Are Getting Colder, a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. It may be a bit too early to recommend this Christmas short novella, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's very heartwarming, and that is Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. This is one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite books of all time, one of my favorite Christmas stories of all time. It's just, I love it so much. Very heartwarming. I would recommend it to anyone who likes Christmas, loves Christmas, likes historical fiction. Such a good one. It's short, but so, so good. I would also recommend The Deal of a Lifetime and Other Stories by Frederick Bachman. I don't really remember what these stories are about, but I do remember one story in particular called And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. That one really got to my heartstrings, and it's about a grandpa who's just sitting on a bench with his grandson, and he's just remembering his past life and thinking of his regrets and memories and things like that. And it says there's one last thing he must do to help his family learn to say goodbye without fear. I remember finding it a very heartwarming story, and I would definitely try out some short Frederick Bachman stories. For a short, heartwarming read, I would also recommend Little House in the Big Woods. It is quite short and a very fast read with a lot of illustrations. This one is truly so, so heartwarming, so cozy, and so, so perfect if you're looking for a quick read that will just get you in the heart. I love this book. I love this series. I just love everything about Laura Ingalls Wilder's stories and how she tells her childhood stories in such a beautiful way. So I highly recommend this one too. Question 9 is Fall returns every year, an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. I usually just reread books when I'm in the mood to reread them. I don't normally plan yearly rereads or anything like that, with the exception of Little Women in November and December. This one, it will continue to be a yearly staple in my reading life. Every November and December, this book needs to get read. And if it doesn't, I feel like I will feel like something's missing. So November and December, I believe this will be my 4th time reading this book, I think. But this one is going to be an every year thing. The last question, question 10, is Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. What are your favorite cozy reading accessories? Honestly, I'm pretty simple when it comes to reading. It's generally just a drink, like coffee or tea, mostly coffee. If it's the evening, I'll have like hot chocolate or apple cider or something like that, and a candle, and then maybe sometimes an ambience room if I'm not listening to an audiobook. But for my favorite mugs, I have a couple fall ones. So just as an example of the mugs that I've been using this fall season, we have How Do You Like Them Apples. I love this one so much. It has the same thing on both sides. So I use this one a lot. It's one of my favorites, and it is from Indigo, so definitely a favorite. And then one that I found recently, and it is more like a soup bowl than a mug. It is massive, and that is this one. It's fall. We have Snoopy. Oh my goodness, this is huge. It's literally a soup bowl. Like, this is gigantic, but this is another favorite and will become a staple. I have a bunch more mugs, but they're all in the dishwasher, so couldn't bring them all up. I do also really, really love candles. I don't have a lot of Bath & Body Works candles, but my favorite currently is the pumpkin apple, and I've had this for a couple of years, so it's definitely gone down. But the pumpkin apple, I don't even have to light it anymore. I just take off the lid and the entire room smells like this candle, so definitely a favorite. Then we have Apple Orchard, and this one smells like clove, apple, and maple, and this one is also an all-time favorite, but it is almost completely burned through. It is so sad, very heartbroken, but such a favorite. And then I recently got my first candle from this company, which is Mythology, and that is the Lady of the Lake candle. Notes of mist over enchanted water, dewdrops formed on fresh green leaves, and crushed sea salt dusted in white musk. I honestly can't describe the smell, but it is so soothing. Like, I really cannot explain the smell, but it is just incredible. Really love this candle as well. So candles, mugs, those are like the main 2 things for me. And ambience rooms are also huge. So again, if I'm not listening to an audiobook, I will have an ambience room on the TV or on my laptop, and I will have some of my favorite autumnal ones linked below. They are just the best for reading. And question 11 was just to tag other people, and I'm not going to tag anyone in particular, but if you would love to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. I tag you. You are tagged. But that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to me ramble. It means so much, but I will see you in my next video. Bye.